Now, the British government has warned of a high threat of attacks against foreigners in shopping areas in South Africa. This, of course, follows a similar advisory issued by the United States Embassy in Pretoria. The South African government sought to allay the fears, saying that the country was safe. And, of course, the warnings said that attacks could target sites frequented by foreigners, including high-end shopping areas and malls in the economic hub of Johannesburg and, of course, Cape Town. Now let's head to West Africa. The threat of Islamic militants featured in discussions at the 49th Conference of the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, in Dakar over the weekend. Outgoing chairman and Senegalese President Macky Sall noted that the terrorist threat remained a concern in the sub-region, although there was no presence of the Islamic State in West Africa. Marcel de Souza from Benin officially took office as chairman of the ECOWAS Commission for the next 2 years.
Terroristes restent une source de préoccupation pour notre sous-région.
The terrorist threat remains a concern to our sub-region. We must face it by combining all our resources in a global long-term perspective. We must at the same time remove any confusion in terminology. There is no Islamic State in West Africa.
En même temps, lever tout amalgame.
Now let's go back to South Africa. Julie Shire now joins us in Johannesburg with an update on the situation. Julie, welcome to the show. Now, of course, South Africa just got over one hurdle with the ratings firm S&P. What has been the reaction to these new warnings, to these new terror threats? And are South Africans worried about these terror warnings?
Well, Uche, as you said, South Africa has only just breathed a sigh of relief after Standard & Poor's decision to keep its rating unchanged at BBB, with a negative outlook avoiding junk status. So South Africans now not only have to worry about their sluggish economy affecting consumers' confidence and putting off foreign investors, they also have to worry about terror threats and how it can affect the country's economy. Many South Africans are worried these threats can hurt the tourism industry and keep Americans and British nationals from coming to South Africa. Others are worried about foreign investors going elsewhere. So the news of possible terror attacks in South Africa has left many worried, especially as there's a large community of American expats, American schools, and high-profile American businesses' interests in the country, Uche.
Now, Julie, the country actually doesn't have a history when it comes to terrorism. So what are the pundits saying? Has this recent news changed the outlook for South Africa when we look at the tourism sector and, of course, how investors are going to approach the country?
That's true. Alerts are very rare in this country, but there has been a similar alert issued last September, Uche, and the news is still very recent. But several malls around the country have reviewed this security with great deal of concern, and the security has been stepped up because of these renewed terror threats. In Johannesburg and Sandton City, Eastgate and Menlyn malls have all confirmed receiving a warning and have already implemented additional security. But it's still too early to say how this warning will affect directly the tourism sector. State Security Minister David Mahlobo is moving quickly to assure people that there's no cause for panic, and the government is doing its own assessment on the alert to determine the extent of the threat. But these warnings always shake things up, and it could be very negative for South Africa, Uche.
Now, though the economic outlook seems more stable now, of course, with the S&P ratings decision, the political landscape remains sort of rocky. Now, after all the country has been through, including, of course, the recent terror warning, has the outlook changed for South Africa? Are we seeing a more positive or unsure or negative outlook going forward?
The reality is that South Africa's economic outlook has moved from stable to negative, managing to avoid junk status. But it's also a reality that most South Africans remain optimistic, and government, business and labor are trying hard to restore investor confidence. The terror threats do make it harder for South Africa to overcome its economic problems, but the country so far has escaped the jihadist attacks seen in several other African countries. And South Africa's Foreign Affairs Department believes the country's security agencies are capable of ensuring the safety of its residents, expats and their businesses, Uche.
Well, thank you so much, Julie, for those insights. Of course, Julie Shire joining us in Johannesburg.